So when I first came up with this challenge idea, I thought, man, a no walking challenge? This is gonna be easy. I'll just shoot anything that moves. I mean, seems pretty simple, right? Then I chose the Village of Shadows difficulty, and let's just say I was clenching as hard as a vice grip during this playthrough. The rules are simple. That little sprint key on the keyboard? Gone. This means I'll be moving slower than a naked old man trying to make his way through a hallway of molasses, and with how fast-paced the journey in front of me was gonna be, I knew I was in for a terrible time. Let's get started, shall we? That morning began like any other, with my wife crashing out and leaving my precious little boy behind to fend for himself. My little boy, who looked suspiciously similar to Chris Redfield. Huh, must just be a coincidence.
Fluff and Flotsam, what's that?
That was completely unacceptable for my wife to be showing my newborn, so I headed right into the kitchen and... oh, geez.
Don't get too close to me when I'm cooking, babe.
Deciding that things were totally normal and that my wife definitely wasn't possessed by some sort of demon from hell, I decided to put little Chris Jr. to bed. He's a precious little guy, isn't he? I went back downstairs to Mia. She physically abused me, ordered me to go sit at the table, and, huh? Suddenly the lights went out, bullets started flying, and Jesus Christ! For reasons I didn't know, Chris Sr. stole my Chris Jr. and told me that this didn't involve me. I mean, it's only my child, but okay. I was dragged to my doom and blacked out from all the stress, and I woke up a few hours later in the snow. I didn't understand what the hell was going on, but I did know one thing. I needed to get Chris Jr. back no matter what, except there was only one problem. Remember this? Yeah, I was a cripple now, so I'd be taking my sweet time. But before going any further, let me tell you all about a little game called War Thunder, a free-to-play vehicular war game where only the mightiest of warriors survive, available on PC, consoles, and mobile. Fight in the air, on the ground, or in the sea, with tons and tons of vehicles and customizations to choose from. Don't lie to me, I see that look in your eyes. You crave destruction and the right to call yourself a god among men. This is the ticket to doing that, I assure you. With over 2,500 vehicles from 10 major nations to choose from, the roster of destruction is endless. From old-timey to modern-day combat units, you'll be taking part in crazy battles against over 70 million players from all over the world. The graphics are so very nice, the authentic sound effects mind-blowing, and the ear-riveting music creates the perfect atmosphere for you and the boys to battle in. What I really love about this war game, when compared to all the others, is the damage system. See, you don't just have a boring health bar system, no. You have a realistic damage system where certain parts get blown off as you annihilate your enemies, and there's even this damage x-ray that shows exactly what happened to you or your opponent as you're playing. And did I mention that there's over 140 maps you can be dropped into, giving you an endless stream of variety? So what are you waiting for? War Thunder is completely free to play on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile. Sign up now using my links in the description and pin comment down below, and you'll get the massive bonus pack available for new and returning players that haven't played for at least 6 months on PC and console. You'll get an exclusive vehicle decorator, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of a premium account, but this is only available for a very limited time, so don't miss it. Thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Now, not knowing where to go first, I headed deeper into the spooky forest, and I'm not gonna lie, I was a little scared. Was this even worth it? Should I have just... Oh! Going in the same direction as that thing probably wasn't the best idea in the world, but what else was I supposed to do? Curl up like a little baby and cry myself to sleep? Hell no. I pushed on until I came across some sort of log cabin. I went inside to see if anyone could help me, even called for help here and there, but surprisingly, nobody was home. I thought that was a bit weird, so I searched the place a bit, and you wouldn't believe what I found in the basement. Oh God. What kind of place is this? I scurried out of there as quick as I could and strolled up over a ridge to find myself face to face with a breathtaking view. Wow. Wait, do you guys feel that? My MILF sonar was off the charts and was pointing me in that general direction, so I took off like a rocket and, I came across a spoon? I mean, I had to say, it was a pretty nice spoon, but not as nice as a MILF, so I trudged on. Jesus Christ! The old man told me there was something carnivorous out there. In a moment of panic, he asked me if I had a banana. I looked at him like he was crazy, told him I obviously didn't have a banana, and then he went into the back room and gave me one. I didn't know what the hell was happening, but he was adamant on me taking it, so alright, I took it. Before I knew it, old man Jenkins was dragged into heaven, and I was left there all alone to fend for myself. At least until a big green meaty claw dragged me down into hell. I made my way through the pile of bodies while being as careful as I could, and... wait, what the hell is that? Apparently, Shrek wanted a 1v1. but I could sense how strong the lad was. There was no way I'd win in a fair fight. So instead, I circled the guy, got punched in the side of the head, curved around into the house to grab the bolt cutters, and when I prepared myself for the worst, I noticed that old Shrekky was bolting away as gracefully as a deer. It was only then I started to think that something about this quaint little village wasn't quite right. Anyway, I cut my way through the door and pressed on. Witnessed a man get pulled into a dark building and for some reason decided to go check it out. And you'll never guess who I saw in there. It was Shrek. In fact, it was multiple Shreks. They hunted in packs. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I struggled on this part a lot. Believe it or not being able to run away from a dangerous threat was a massive problem. These ogres weren't like the zombies in RE2, slow and dumb and easy to avoid. No. These boys were quick as hell and tankier than, well, a tank. All I could do was sit there with my pathetic little block to protect me as I tried to fire as much potassium into him as I could. I died again and again, until I eventually got super lucky during one of my attempts, and he only took 35 shots. Okay, so that was taken care of, but guess what was next? The village. Here, I'd have to survive for 4 to 5 minutes against an endless group of Shreks, who each took 35 handgun shots before dying, and if I somehow did that successfully, their big daddy would show up out of nowhere to crush every bone in my pathetic body. Oh boy. My first strategy was to barricade myself in a random house for as long as possible, trying to burn out the timer as much as I could. The only problem with this was that this plan was horrible. Not only did the Shreks break through the barricade within 20 seconds, I'd then have to shuffle all the way across the town square to safety, which usually ended up with me getting beaten. I did figure out that camping the top of this ladder made me invincible, but sadly, I think the timer freezes or something when you do that, so even though I sat there for what felt like an hour, nothing happened. It looked like I was gonna have to face these ogres head on. What followed was an endless cycle of me trying and failing to beat this part for the next hour. As it turns out, running is kind of important on the hardest difficulty. The enemies were just too quick, and shooting them was genuinely pointless. I felt like there was nothing else I could do. That is, until I looked up Distortion speedrun. You see, there's a specific trick speedrunners use to get through this section relatively pain-free. First, they unlock this gate, hide behind it for a minute or two taking advantage of the ogre's AI, then they hightail it to the house with the shotgun before Big Boy Jumbo pops out of the woodwork. There they stay for a few minutes until escaping through the basement, then they go to the house with the ladder, and if everything is done properly, the cutscene plays, ending the section. This was all well and good, but there's a little detail here. I couldn't sprint like Distortion. I didn't even think it would work. Except that it did. I was able to slip by these puppies by taking a hit, and then I barricaded myself in the shotgun house all safe and sound. And I didn't even have to escape to the other house. See me battling one of the Shreks here? I'm doing this to keep him from breaking in as long as possible. But then he just decided to jump to the side, and I guess he got bored or something because he gave up after that. And I just chilled there until one of those nasty ogres spawned in there with me and tossed me out the window. The village was cleared and I was able to continue on. Of course, I looted everything I could to prepare myself for the bosses that were coming up. Spoke with the chillest grandma I'd ever had the pleasure of conversing with, and made my way to the church. And my god, what the hell is that? These people were psychopaths. Trying my best to forget I'd ever seen such a horrible thing, I moved on to the castle and immediately got captured by a shirtless hunk. He dragged me to some place deep within the bowels of the castle, and when we finally arrived at the villain command center, I couldn't believe my damn eyes.
I want milk.
Before I could beg her to crush me with her toes, the shirtless hunk, aka Eisenberg, called up his boys and told me I had to run for my life. I couldn't do that obviously, so I just walked for my life instead, and surprisingly, I made it without getting a scratch. Yeah, I was even able to avoid the spikes on the roof. I made my way out of that dungeon and headed up for the main part of the castle when, out of nowhere, the jolly old duke offered me his well-priced wares, cosplaying as none other than the merchant. I upgraded the shotgun's firepower, thanked the lad for everything, and headed into the castle.
What's that?
Bold and Brash by Squidward Tentacles. Well, I'd say the boy has some potential, eh? So yeah, I continued on, admiring the art pieces hung up in all the rooms, collecting as much loot as I could, and avoiding as many enemies as possible. See, with the Village of Shadows difficulty, you're not given nearly enough supplies for the job. You might get a handgun bullet here and there, a bottle of health maybe, but otherwise, you basically have to politely ask everyone around you not to kill you. It's not so bad when you can run away from all the threats around you, but that wasn't really an option for me, was it? As I was contemplating exactly what I'd do to survive this nightmare, the Bella sisters showed up in some hot anime cosplay and dragged me into the next room. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty excited about what the next few minutes were gonna look like, until they threw me up on some meat hooks like some useless sack of potatoes right in front of my crush. And you know what they did after that? They just left me there. Thankfully, I was able to set myself free and got to looting. This lasted for about 3 seconds until Bella's sister number 1 caught up to me. I slowly walked away from her and plunged down into the crypt, avoided the ghouls pretty easily because of how slow they were, and came face to face with the one who chased me there in the first place. Unfortunately, this part seemed impossible. Not only could the vampire girl chop me up with her sword like I was some kind of rare Swiss cheese, if I was able to get around her by some miracle of the Lord, 2 ghouls would ambush me and send me to heaven. I mean, I was really trying my best here, shooting her in the face, blocking when I needed to, and scooting around behind her to try to get some distance, but everything I did ended up in failure. It was clear I was doing something wrong, I just didn't know what. So I loaded my last save, stocked up on as many explosives and health bottles as I could, and came back an entirely new man. I used all 3 of my explosives, killing the ghouls quickly, and I was now able to 1v1 the hot vampire triplet. Of course, it was still a bit of a challenge since I had to take her punishments like a good little boy, but at least I wasn't getting tag teamed by the ghoul squad. A few shotgun shots later and she was officially terminated. The next few minutes were kind of annoying, but really it was nothing I wasn't used to. I hid from one of the vampire sisters in the Duke's room until it was safe to leave, got really good with juking the ghouls in the blood tunnel and escaped to the balcony, witnessed Ada throw a piece of furniture across her bedroom and wished that piece of furniture was me, got my wish when she noticed me looking at her through the window, and found myself in yet another dungeon. Except this time, Ada herself was chasing me. All I had to do here was spin around some of the pillars and get lucky as the ghoul and Ada tried their best to smack me around. I guess I was just slightly faster than Ada or something because the giant woman was never able to catch up to me. When she cut through the bars as I made for the exit, I simply said nope, turned around, just barely avoided the skinny boy's swing, and circled around through the bars to the exit. My ass was clenched tighter than a steel vice grip, but like, I was fine. It wasn't like I was screaming like a little girl or something, okay? I was good. I spent the next little while looting and avoiding enemies as best I could. Thankfully, the castle only ever threw ghouls at me, so I was never really in danger with them like I was with the Shreks. I fought the next sister and beat her after about 10 tries, came across Ada wandering through the castle halls and spooned her ass to try and weaken her. Fought the final sister, who turned out to be extremely easy because of the infinite cold air handle, headed to the roof to grab the rifle, avoided the bat creatures like they weren't even there because of how slow they were, and there I was, left with only scraps to use on Lady Ada. Here's the situation, okay? I was just chilling in the castle, trying to figure out the best way to declare my love to that gargantuan piece of absolute art, when all of a sudden, she grabbed me from behind and stabbed me. So, I stabbed her back. And Jesus Christ, she turned into a demon from the pits of hell. I mean, she was still kinda hot, but that's besides the point, okay? This boss battle sucked. Because of how slow I was, I had to constantly be moving, and anytime I wanted to get a shot off on her, I literally had to quickscope it. And as if that wasn't bad enough, she had so much damn health, I'd basically be peddling the streets for ammo after this. I failed again and again and again, and after a certain point, it was obvious that I simply didn't have the ammo to do this properly. So I loaded my last save, looted every square inch of the castle, and scored 6 extra rifle shots, upgraded my banana and the rifle just a tad bit more, and faced off against Lady Ada one final time. And that was it. I did it. Or at least, I thought I did, but I only got to phase 2. I bet you're wondering if I was able to escape up the staircase in time before she ate me. The answer to that is yes. That was actually pretty surprising. I was expecting the run to die there. I made it to the top of the tower and easily avoided Ada's pathetic attacks, and after burning through damn near all my ammo, my favorite MILF was finally defeated. As I made my way through the dark, slimy tunnel of doom, I started to get a little worried. The werewolf section was coming up next, and I was completely out of my best ammo. All I had were banana shots. What the hell was I gonna do? As I pondered this important question, I came across the chill granny praying to a shrine of Patrick's butt cheeks. I didn't even bother asking questions. When I stepped outside, look at what I saw. There was a whole group of them. Calmly and carefully, I put one foot in front of the other, and when they inevitably jumped me, I panicked and headed right back to where I came. But the door was locked. When I spawned in to try again, look, the Shreks who were supposed to be on the pillars disappeared. Not questioning my luck, I pushed forward once again, and this time I made it to the cutscene. After that, I looted some basement, found a very special teddy bear, went into a scary looking building, moved the shelf, and was immediately slapped by some big ugly ogre. I didn't last long with him chasing me. I tried a few more times, trying my best to outrun the guy so I could save as much ammo as I could, but he was just way too fast, and there was no way to avoid him. These guys weren't like the ghouls from the castle. No, they always caught up to me no matter what. I had no choice but to crush him. But there was a problem. My banana was completely useless and I was all out of the big ammo. So I did the only thing that made sense. Grabbed my trusty shotgun, did the ammo capacity upgrade to get a full clip, pumped that sucker full of lead, and watched his body fade into the ether. In the next area, I was able to grab a new handgun, which would unfortunately be replacing my banana. I somehow slipped under the tractor without being tag-teamed by the massive Shrek gang, and with some trial and error on the next part, I was able to slip by all the bad guys and climb to the roof just in time for all of them to scatter off to God knows where. Thank goodness for safe zones. Ooh, yummy! It was time to go and fight the doll. And really, there's not much to go over here. Sure, walking away from the demon baby was pretty terrifying, and trying to find the right doll 3 times near the end of this area was tricky, but overall, I didn't have any issues with this part. I thought this was pretty funny though.
Is this Mia?
On my way out, I was able to grab the new and improved shotgun. I blew my way out of there. I played with another man's ball and won an awesome prize, and I was somehow able to walk through the onslaught of ogre arrows that came my way. Yet, when I got back to the safe zone, I noticed the Duke wasn't cosplaying as my favorite person in the world anymore. Next up on the roster was Moreau, and I knew I was gonna need an absolute unit of ammunition to beat his slimy ass, so I upgraded everything I could, and even made a hearty meal of health before pushing on. And within me taking 2 steps out of the sanctuary, I was attacked. Thankfully, I was able to run my way into the nearest building, but what the hell, man? How was I gonna avoid that thing? Well, do I ever have news for you? I simply perched up on the roof, fired a shot at the old boy, and continued to plow his ass until he fell over dead. Yeah, I used up a lot of ammo, and yeah, he barely gave me anything that was worth it, but if it saved me the fear of walking around with a monster on the loose, I was willing to pay any price. Wait, what? Come on! Alright, here's the moment you've all been waiting for. Was I fast enough to avoid Fishboy's attempts to eat me, or did the run die here? Well, let's go section by section, shall we? For the first part, I was able to skirt by and jump to safety before being eaten, so that was easy enough. Then came the next part. I shot the tower from a safe spot because it would be stupid not to, showed up at the Duke's place, and look, he was cosplaying again. He was even aura farming on me, man. God damn. Anyway, I bought some ammo, spooned some more cool ducks, and found myself staring down a guaranteed failure. Except that it wasn't. I was somehow able to slip my way across just in the nick of time. The platforms themselves weren't exactly long or anything, so it wasn't much of a surprise. But then I came to this time section where the platforms only stayed up for a very limited time, and this is actually where everything fell apart. See, I could get to the opposite side no problem, and everything was looking great. It was only when I had to make it the entire way back that I started sweating like a pig. I tried again and again, but I just couldn't seem to— Just kidding! I made it on my second try. The timing was tight though, so I kind of had to strategize by pulling these levers as I went, but yeah, this wasn't too bad. Then came this part, and here's where I actually died a crazy amount of times. See, the first platform I had to reach to guarantee my safety was just a hair too far. Moreau gobbled me up more times than I could count. I tried perfecting my movement, I tried praying to the Lord for my safety, I even tried looking into the game code itself to see if there was anything I was missing, and as it turns out, I was missing something. I simply had to bait the guy out and head right back, causing him to have a massive delay before spawning back in, and I was good to go. I did this again with the second platform and just barely scraped by with freshly shaved butt cheeks. And that was it! All that stood between me and Eisenberg was a single boss battle. It was around here I noticed something I hadn't clued into before. Of the Duke's 6 home-cooked meals I could choose from, one was a speed boost. Are you kidding me? How did I not see that until now? Movement speed increased permanently. Yeah, that sounds nice. The good news is that it was actually impossible for me to get this upgrade until I beat Moreau anyway, so it wasn't like I was missing out. Okay, so Fishboy himself, aka Moreau. He was extremely difficult. He was actually faster than my movement speed, so no matter how much space was between us, he'd always catch up to me eventually and plow me into the next dimension. And as if that wasn't bad enough, he'd only ever show me his weak spot when I got close, and when that happened, he'd shoot acid all over my face, ending me instantly. And did I mention that this guy had a shit ton of health? Yeah. This wasn't gonna be fun. Thankfully, there is an exploit I was able to use here. Just like in my knife-only challenge, I was able to lead Moreau over to this part of the map where he'd get stuck in an endless loop of attacking me, which allowed me to shoot his weak spot over and over again in relative safety. This worked for the most part, but of course there was more to it than that. After taking enough damage, Moreau would sometimes dip out and get unstuck, and then I'd have to find a way to get him stuck again, but because I was so damn slow with my movement speed, the guy ended up annihilating me every single time he got free. I just didn't have the health I needed to survive. I needed something more. A strategy to wipe this guy as quickly as possible. So here's what I did. Apparently, Moreau takes a lot of damage from explosives. This was great news because I just so happened to be saving up most of my materials for the Mother Miranda fight at the end of the game, and it was because of this I was able to make a bunch of mines. After that, I led the guy to the chief spot, weakened him as much as I could until he decided to do his raining acid move, and as soon as it was safe, I placed all my mines. But the guy still wasn't dead! I panicked and ran, blew up an explosive barrel, got spit on, healed, somehow got the guy stuck in the chief spot once again, and filled him with most of my ammo until he died a painful death. For the next little bit, I went around looting, I did a little bit of spoon fishing, I did some more looting, then I hunted some wild chickens. Things were looking pretty good. Hell, I was even able to grab the finest fish, which allowed me to finally get the speed upgrade, and, well, I couldn't tell the difference. I mean, I did do a speed test, but it seemed like I only saved a fraction of a second, so I couldn't tell if it actually worked or not. In the next area to Fishboy's estate, I was able to slip into the Magnum house, took out the lone ogre that was living there, snagged the Magnum, and somehow escaped from there without taking a single scratch. I could have sworn there was supposed to be a beast there or something, but hey, whatever, man. I ain't questioning it. Immediately after that, I headed over to the Duke and upgraded the Magnum as much as I could, vowing only to use it against Mother Miranda because I knew damn well how difficult she was going to be. By a miracle of the Lord, I was able to cook up every last dish of the Duke's, which turned me damn near superhuman, and all that stood between me and Eisenberg was a cave of Shreks. As terrified as I was about this, I was not to be deterred. I hadn't come all this way just to give up now. So what if I was about to be attacked by over a dozen ogres at once? So what if they were faster than me and took so many bullets they were essentially Terminators? None of that mattered because of the power of believing in myself. I charged forward a warrior and started blasting indiscriminately. I may have gotten smacked and had to use up my only healing item, but I didn't care. No, sir. I kept going, avoiding all kinds of fire arrows, blasting some more, hightailing it to the crank and cranking it, jumping down and shooting an explosive barrel, climbing a ladder up to the next crank, cranking it, and waiting with ultra-clenched butt cheeks as the gate slowly opened. The grenade launcher came in clutch here, and I was able to make it to the safe zone by the skin of my teeth. Look at those losers retreating like little cowards. I guess they realized it was pointless to go against me, huh? Oh, thank God. The next part was pretty similar. I just shotgunned anyone who stood in my way and even pulled out the old pipe bomb when they gained up on me at the end, and that was it. As I slipped through the cracks of that disgusting place, I couldn't help but notice that the Shreks were feral beings. Heartless monsters that fed on the flesh of men without any hint of remorse. Always feasting, yet never quite feeling satiated. Ogres were truly vile creatures. I arrived just in time to battle Urius, the ugly leader of the Shreks, and oh boy, was this section ever brutal. Thankfully, I'd been able to recoup almost all the ammo I'd used up on the fish boy, so that wasn't really an issue. It was more of a health thing, really. See, because I couldn't run from the guy, I just had to take his punishments like a good little boy, and when he got his little ogres to come and join the party, my only option was to place a mine down and then shotgun the fools until they stopped moving. At the end of the day, this battle was a war of attrition. I got my ass beat. I watched Urius annihilate one of his own boys, and finally, right when things felt truly hopeless at the end, the big man took the big L, and I was free to move on to Eisenberg's factory. Once I was in the factory, I came across this suspicious-looking room, and when I moved the suspicious-looking blanket, I came across this suspicious-looking wall. And let me tell you, I was terrified. Eisenberg ambushed me. I threatened him with my banana, hoping maybe he was allergic to it or something, and he got so offended that he kicked me down into a random hole. That was when I first came across Fan Man. Surprisingly, I was able to walk away from the guy no problem, even with a bunch of ghouls trying to block my path. I slid to safety, headed over to the Duke, upgraded everything I could, took out some ghouls in my way because just look at all that ammo, and finally ended up seeing this guy standing in front of the mold machine. Now, any sane person would take this guy out and continue on their way, but not me. No, I just let a brother chill. Why bother him? He seemed like a nice guy, at least until I tried putting something in behind him. Then he got pissed. He seemed a lot scarier than he actually was though. All I had to do was run far enough away for him to despawn and he went right back to sleep. When it comes to the rest of the factory, there's really not much to talk about. Since I had saved so much ammo since the very beginning, I took most of the small fries out and any of the big boys were easy enough to avoid because they were slow as hell. There were these tank guys though, and they were kind of unavoidable for me. What I had to do with them was blow off their armor with some kind of explosive, bait out an attack, turn around and walk away because that was much faster than just backing up, and after their attack animation was was complete, I was able to get a clean shot off on them. This, combined with the fact that I was able to retreat into the Duke's safe zone at any time, made this section pretty straightforward. And by the way, Fan Man was pretty easy because he just ran in straight lines, which was easy enough for me to sidestep. It was time to leave that dirty, vile factory once and for all. I went up a lift, shoved a piece of metal out of my way, and when I heard a scary noise, Chris attacked me out of nowhere, stole my banana, and unpeeled it. Then he threw it on the floor. I was gonna eat that! I was about to tackle the guy and tickle his exposed belly until he told me where my biological son was, but before I could, he told me everything. See, Mother Miranda couldn't stand the fact that my small child looked just like Chris. She felt threatened by it, thought I'd raise a demon-hunting monster that would exterminate all evil in the world when he grew up. So she hatched a nefarious plan. She would pose as my wife for months, and when the right moment came, she would kill me and steal my baby boy away, all in the hopes of transforming him into an entirely different child. And you know what? I believed him. It just made so much damn sense. The violent outbursts, the crashing out. Hell, she even hung up a bunch of SpongeBob pictures all around the house. I think she was trying to brainwash me or something. Anyway, I was on Chris's side now. But sadly, there wasn't a lot of time left. Miranda was so close to transforming my precious boy into an entirely different baby, and there was no way in hell I was gonna let that happen. It was time to settle the score once and for all. Chris asked me if I needed help, but I declined. I had an extra banana after all. I'd be good. I coincidentally just happened to hop into a tank, and Eisenberg just so happened to attack me when I got outside. Because there was no sprinting or speed boosting involved here, everything went super smoothly, and I was able to beat that shirtless monster easily. When I was on the ground, I literally just stunlocked the guy by grenade launching him, and when I ran out of ammo with that, I just sniped the guy and that was that. Turns out, things get pretty easy when an enemy can actually be stunlocked. With Eisenberg gone, all that stood in the way between me and my sweet child was Mother Miranda. That was when Mia appeared out of nowhere. She told me how much she loved me, told me how much she wanted me to come back home, but I wasn't stupid. I knew this person wasn't my real wife, and after charging her and pushing that banana into her chest, my suspicions were confirmed. It was Miranda. Before I could do anything though, she punched a hole through my chest and ripped out my heart. Well, that sucks. Next up was Chris's section, and god damn, he's a real man, huh? Dressed to impress. Anyway, it was time to kick some ogre butt. This part was pretty easy. I was never at risk of running out of ammo, and camping on the roof of this house gave me more than enough time to let the laser rip. I infiltrated Miranda's lab, found the real Mia, and was transported back into the body of Ethan Winters. This part was kinda crazy, so I'll just sum it up for you like this. Evelyn came to me in my dreams, told me my body was made of bananas, and told me I was going rotten. That kinda sucked, but if I was doomed to die anyway, better to die as a banana man than just a normal man, right? Here, I was faced with the final battle. I upgraded everything I could, bought anything that would come in handy, and thanked the Duke for everything. This was my final inventory. At this point, Mother Miranda had already completed the transformation ritual, but look, my little boy stayed true to himself. Oh my god. I can't believe it. Mother Miranda was pissed and swore she'd annihilate me for ruining her life. I showed up right in the nick of time and threatened her with my banana once again, and let's just say, I probably should have just let her have the baby. My strategy was simple. Shoot her with my magnum as I blocked her attacks, and then pray that she'd be close enough to death that I could finish her off with my rifle or something. A brilliant plan, if I do say so myself, but one that failed horribly for the simple fact that I didn't really have the health I needed for this battle. I thought I was good with 5 bottles, but with each of her attacks putting me in the red in just a single hit and me not being able to dodge anything, I was burning through those babies faster than carrots on that horse girl game.
No, I don't have nearly 70 hours in it. What are you talking about? Get out of here.
It just wasn't enough. There was no cheese strategy like there was for Moreau, no way to avoid her like Monster Ada, and with no way to buy more healing items, it really seemed like I was screwed. So, I did the only thing that made sense. I sold my shotgun since it was only half upgraded and I was barely using it in the fight anyway. I increased my Magnum's firepower by 200 points and my rifles by 300. Dove back into the fight head first and beat Mother Miranda my very first try. My beautiful child was just chilling there in the ashes of my enemy's corpse, and I scooped him up and handed him to Chris. I told him to keep his filthy hands off my wife, but also to watch over the little one so that he would grow up to be as much of a boulder-punching monster as he was. And with that, I took the detonator and pressed the button. I cannot believe it, boys. The no running challenge was actually possible on the Village of Shadows difficulty. There were so many points where I thought the run was dead, but I just kept pushing and always found a way to succeed no matter what. What a beautiful end to this little story, huh? By the way, guys, don't forget to go to the links in the description or pinned comment down below to download War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile, and claim your massive bonus pack on PC and consoles. Any new or returning players who haven't played for at least 6 months will receive this, but it's only available for a very limited time, so make sure not to miss it. Thanks for watching, subscribe to me and make sure to click that bell or else you pretty well aren't subscribed to me, and I'll see you all in the next video.